Just got done with the Diablo Campfire chat. It was Joe Pipora, Joe Shelley, and Adam, lead community guy, game director, associate game director. And I thought that this Campfire chat was dynamite. I thought it was godly. It's exactly what the game needed because the morale is very low in the community. So, without any particular order here, I took a page of notes of all the stuff that they talked about. Go over it here. Yeah, I thought it was godly, if I'm being honest. Okay, so it started off by them apologizing for the patch. And they said they agree that after the patch, the game is just not fun. Okay, so the first thing about having a problem is admitting you have a problem, and that's exactly right. It's really not that fun. They committed to never releasing a patch like this again. And then they went to explain what they meant by that. They said this patch was essentially massive nerfs trying to, set up the future of Diablo 4 without giving us any compensation currently. So they're not going to do that again. They said part of their internal processes are going to change. Because what their internal process was balance the game, but it didn't have any consideration for how it would feel for the players or the fun that the players would have, which is why, the game's not fun. They said that endgame Nightmare Dungeons, the difficulty, especially after all the nerfs, is way too hard. They said doing Nightmare Dungeon 100 is almost impossible for most builds, and that you have to play a very specific niche build in order to get it down, which is true. So they said currently what is a Nightmare Dungeon 70 will be the future Nightmare Dungeon 100. They also said that they're going to release new endgame content to really challenge people in a different way. So if anybody's saying, wow, Nightmare Dungeon 100 was the thing that I really like to push, they're going to bring in new endgame pinnacle content of some kind that's going to help you, or give you something to do. They said that one of the fun things in ARPGs is getting a really powerful build and then going and destroying a ton of monsters. And they said, well, the most popular endgame activities currently, Helltide and Nightmare Dungeons, don't really have the kind of density for you to do that. So in some areas of Helltide, they're going to massively buff the density, and they're going to massively buff the density in Nightmare Dungeons. And hopefully that will also fix the XP problem. They said they know sorcerers and barbarians have been hit extremely hard by their patch notes. They're being worked on right now. And I think we're getting some updates in the 1.1 patch for sorcerers at least. They're going to help sorcerers and barbarians come back up. They know that the patch really hit them both. They said that respecking is a problem in the game. Nobody wants to respec because it's too expensive. The cost is going down 40%. They said because of their changes, they understand why the whole community thinks that they're trying to slow down the game. They're actually not trying to slow down the game. That is not one of their missions. They realize that the changes that they did slow down the game, so they're going to work on ways to improve it so it doesn't feel that way. That was not one of their goals. So, with that in mind, they're going to look for ways to make the leveling 50 to 100 faster, because it's just currently way too hard to get to 100. Finally, for the first time I've ever seen them publicly, they addressed crowd control. They said that getting crowd controlled all the time is not fun. And they said especially when they buff the density in Nightmare Dungeons, the crowd control is going to get even worse. Now, here's the thing that I'm not trying to hone in on exactly their wording, but what they said is they're going to improve our tools to deal with crowd control. That is not the solution that I would be looking for. I don't want more ways to break CC. I want you to bring CC down as a mechanic. I don't want more ways to deal with unbearable CC. I think CC crowd control should be brought down. For example, in this patch, they did fix 2 bugs with Cold Enchanted. Cold Enchanted, I'll actually run it now as an affix. I play on hardcore. I can actually play it without dying. So that more of that. Bring the CC down. Bring the spiders rooting you down, the chain CCs down. I think that's a way better fix than getting more tools. They said they're going to think about bringing loadouts into the game because everyone keeps asking for it. They're working on the leaderboards, but they're not coming till season 3. People are not going to be happy with that timeline, but it is what it is. They said they're going to look for ways to make Uber uniques more common and or more ways to get them, probably with those new pinnacle things that they're bringing. They also kind of alluded to, without saying it, like I'm putting words in their mouth, but they essentially alluded to like the Uber campaign bosses are coming. So maybe we're going to be fighting Uber Andariel and Uber Duriel soon, and whatever else the other campaign bosses were. They said part of the problem from 50 to 100 is not just leveling. They said there's not enough milestones in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. So they're going to be looking to put in a ton of more milestones. You can have fun and feel like your character is reaching different power levels throughout the process, which goes in with they're going to improve the item progression. And another thing that they said is they understand that playing the game, you get an inventory full of yellows and you have to manually look through everything. And they say that's a huge problem. So they're considering 2 things. They're talking with the UI team about a much faster way to compare items, or they're looking straight up at implementing loot filters, which is the greatest thing that I've heard in a long time. They said they're working on a group finder. It is coming. They said they're going to look for ways to improve target farming if you're a druid and you need a Tempest Roar. They said that they recognize some monster types are doing way too much damage and one-shotting people. They also said that some of the Nightmare Dungeon affixes are killing way more people than others, like way disproportionately. Said they have the data, they're going to fix it. They said that some ranged monsters do too much damage, and some classes like sorcerers have too little defense to deal with it. They are looking at that and they're going to fix it. They said they're looking for a way, part of like the stash space that they addressed. They're going to give us another stash tab. And they said another thing is there's too many things in the game that are taking up too much space, like the caged hearts for the season. Like the fact that you have to extract 1 million legendary affixes and keep the legendaries to extract them. They said that that's not fun. One person from chat suggested that if you find a better power, that you can upgrade it on the codex. So once you find a perfect disobedience power, maybe you could extract it into your codex and level up the codex. And they seem to like it. That's actually a pretty smart idea. But they said they're considering that and other options to fix the fact that you don't have 10,000 things in your stash. They said the memory leaks and the PC performance, like those things are always being addressed, but they actually found like 2 or 3 specific bugs that keep causing it that are going to be fixed. They said crafting will be enhanced in the future beyond just upgrading with gold, adding sockets, and just re-rolling 1 stat. They said that they're buffing goblins. They're going to drop better loot, and they love how D3 has multiple kinds of goblins, so probably more goblins are coming. Next Friday, we're getting another campfire where they're going to tell us about 1.1.1, which is going to be released a few days after that campfire chat, which is going to address some of the stuff that they talked about. They said there's going to be several more patches before season 2. So that's a summary of what they talked about. And this is the first time, for the most part, this is the first time that I've seen them just straight up admit, we have a problem. This is what we did wrong. I'm sorry. There wasn't a whole lot of excuses, or I don't know what the right word is. There wasn't a whole lot of, well, you guys think this is bad, but really, did you think about it this way? They didn't really try to twist it very much. They just straight up said, hey, we messed up majorly. I give them major credit for that. That is not an easy thing to do for a company or for a person or anybody to admit. And you could tell, like, there were some questions that they asked about certain features. Like, they said, like, what about companion druid? And you could tell via their answers that it's not something that they're actually working on right now. They're like, oh, okay, we can look at companion druid, da 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 da. You could tell a lot of these things they actually have talked about, and they probably have fixes in the works to make it better. And I thought that the topics that they chose for once, like I don't want to insult the past times, but really for once were really actually what everyone was complaining about. Like they actually went to the heart of the problem. And the questions that they took from chat, most of them were incredible. Like actually the problems in the game, rather than Joe Schmo 69420 asks, when can I get more headdresses for my fat witch doctor druid? You know, it's like nobody cares about those questions. They actually asked the questions that matter and answered them. And so I think this campfire chat was a huge step in the right direction for the game. I give them major credit here. Major credit.